Hey guys, welcome to the very first lectorial for management and cost accounting. In this week, we are doing chapter 19, which is on operating cash cycle. Hence, this question is also covering the calculation of operating cash cycle. This question can be found at the end of chapter exercises. The exercise number for this is 19.21. And I have copied the question from the book. However, please do not expect this to happen every week. For the first couple of weeks, I will try to give you questions. However, I do expect you to buy a book as soon as possible, and you will need it to do your all of the classes and to prepare for your exam. So let's get back to this question. Tucker and Ali Limited 20x8 financial statements were as follows. Tucker and Ali Limited, this is the title of the statement of profit or loss. This used to be called income statement. The new name is statement of profit or loss for the year ended 31st December 20x8. We have 2 years data, 20x7 and 20x8. All of the data is in millions, and it starts with the revenue, cost of sales, gross profit, revenue, profit for the year. We have purchases for the year were 24.6 million, and for 20x7 were 25.8 million pounds. Now, even if this information was not given, it was possible to calculate purchases because we have the figure for closing inventory. So if you take away, you do opening inventory plus purchases less closing inventory, you can actually find out the figure for purchases. However, actually, this may not be possible for 20x7 because we don't have the opening inventory for 20x7. Okay, so let's see. Then we have Tucker and Ali Limited statement of financial position at 31st December 20x8. We have assets, non-current, current assets, inventory, trade receivables, and cash. As we can see that we have our total assets given. On the next picture, we have equity and liabilities. And if you go through, we have equity, long-term liability, and current liabilities, trade payable, and short-term borrowings. Hence, both sides of our balance sheet tally. Calculate the company's operating cycle for 20x8 and 20x7. Prepare a brief report to the company's director about the company's working capital management, identifying any problems or potential problems. Now, preparing a report is not part of your exam. However, it is relevant to your coursework, so it will be worth noting what could be said about the working capital of this company. So I'll take you to my Excel now, where I will be calculating this question. As you have learned from your lecture, that to calculate operating cash cycle, we have to calculate 3 ratios. I forgot to say this actually at the start, but if you haven't watched the lectures, then please stop here and go back to your lecture videos and watch all of those, and then come back to this recording. Okay, so first of all, to calculate OCC, I'll give you an equation of OCC actually. That OCC equals inventory days plus receivable days and minus payable days. So we need to do 3 of these ratios. I do assume that you have done these ratios before in your module for financial accounting. Whenever you studied that, I am aware that you do learn financial accounting in year 1, but you may have done it in semester 1 for year 2 as well. So to do inventory days, I will inventory days. The formula is closing inventory. Now, many books say average inventory. However, in this question, calculating average inventory for 20x7 is not possible because we don't have opening inventory for 20x7. Hence, we have to take closing inventory figure, which is fine. Even if you see in this case, the difference between opening 20x7 inventory and 20x8 inventory is minimal. You can actually ignore such small differences when you're calculating ratios. So it's perfectly fine to use closing figures as well if there's a very small change in the inventories of year on. So closing inventory divided by cost of sales and times 365. That's the formula. So now I'm going to put the figures there. Closing inventory for, let's make it 2 years as well. So I'm going to do it here actually. 20x8 and then 20x7. All right. So for 20x8, the figure of closing inventory is 3.2 mil, and the cost of sales is 30.7 mil times 365. And we can solve it now. Please look at the formula. If you haven't used Excel before, then it's worth learning. Equal sign brackets to do my calculation. 30.7 brackets close and times 365. I press enter and I get the number of days, which are 38 days. The decimal is really small, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so what I need is 20x7, a bit of a gap here. So I'm going to create this column like this. Okay, and now I'll do for 20x7. For 20x7, the inventory is 3.1 divided by cost of sales, which is 30.8 times 365. So to calculate this, 3.1 divided by 30.8 brackets close times 365, and I get my result as 36.7 days. One could say that a day could never be in decimal, so I generally round up days. Even if it's 38.1, I would call it 39, because when the day goes to the next date, it's the next date. It doesn't work like the other mathematical rounding off figures. So in my head is always this, but at the moment I'll keep it in decimals, and then only OCC I would round up. Next is our receivable days. These are our customers who owe us money, and this ratio would tell us how long does it take us to collect money from them. The formula is trade receivables divided by credit sales times 365. And now I'll put the numbers here. My trade receivables for 2008 are 4.4, and my credit sales are, now the sales are given just as revenue. We don't know if the revenues are all credit or cash. So a bit more information is actually needed about the type of business. I have discussed this topic a lot more in my other video on operating cash cycle for Marks and Spencer. So that would enlighten you on the matter in a lot more details. Assuming, in this case, we have to assume that all of the sales are credit. So I'll take the whole revenue figure, which is 37.6 for 2008, 20x8. And I'll solve the problem now, solve the figure. So brackets 4.4 divided by, just take the figures from the cell, times 365, and we have our 42 point. I'll do the rounding off together for all of them. For 20x7, let's do take the figure from the balance sheet, 4.2 for receivables, and then 38.3 is my credit sales times days in a year. 365 stands for days in a year, and we will calculate it times divided by this times 365. Okay, the formula didn't work because I didn't use brackets. 4.2 divided by credit sales times 365, and now we have got a figure. So this is our receivable days. Now I will do my payable days. Payable days tell us how long we take to pay our suppliers. Or this is also shows the ability of a business to agree a longer term of credit with the suppliers. So longer it is, the better it is, but there are always different ways of looking at it. Sometimes longer means we are having difficulty paying them. So obviously more information is needed in this area. This ratio can be calculated by a payables figure given in the balance sheet, current liabilities, divided by credit purchases times days in a year, putting the figure for 20x8, payables given down here, which are 5.2 divided by credit purchases are given in the question, 24.6 for 2008, 24.6 times days in a year, and let's calculate it now. Times 365, and this gives us 77 days. Okay, so then 20x7 figures 5.2 and 5 divided by credit purchases 25.8. This and doing the calculations now. Brackets close, times 365, and we get 70 days. So these are our results for individual ratios. This should work. I'm not sure why it's not working. 42.7 and this. So these are our results, guys. Highlight them. Okay, so we know the equation now up there, and all we have to do is put here operating cash cycle. And what do we need to do? We need to add inventory and receivable days, and we need to take away payable days, and this will give us 3.6 days or 4 days. We can call it 4 days, and we will do the same formula. So if I do Control C, so it will copy the formula, and if I press enter here, the formula would be applied here. So OCC for 20x8 is 3.6 days, and 20x7 it is 6 days. So that's our answer for the calculation bit. Let's look at them one by one rather than jumping on to the final answer. If you look at the inventory days, it takes them around 30, it took them 38 days to sell in 20x8 and 37 days in 20x7. So more or less a very similar result. 1 month inventory, it does look like it's a retail business. So there's a quick FMCG, fast moving consumer goods kind of items which come and go quickly, maybe food items. Receivable days are 42.7 days and 40 days. So they do allow their customers some credit, which is from around 1.5 months, 43 days in 20x8 and 40 days in 20x7, which is a reasonable amount. If you see, however, that there's a small increase in receivable days, which may be because of increase. I'm not sure why it has happened, because the sales have decreased. Normally your receivable days would increase with the increase of sales. In this case, sales have slightly decreased, which means the credit control department is not functioning properly. Their performance have worsened, or due to maybe economic conditions, customers are taking a bit longer to pay, which is not significant, but it still has an issue. Then we have payable days. It took us 71 days to pay our suppliers in 20x7. Now we are taking 77 days to pay our suppliers. So maybe it's a general trend in the market that people are paying longer to pay their suppliers. Just like our customers took longer, we took longer to pay our suppliers. Overall, the impact of all these movements is positive for 20x8 because it has reduced to 4 days, which means some of the working capital was released during the year, which is always a good sign. If your operating cash cycle increases, that means you need to fund more money into the business, which is a negative thing. If you watch the recording for my lectures on the topic, then obviously this would make good sense. However, I would recommend that you watch the videos on operating cash cycle for Marks and Spencer, which is a lot more detailed, and you read the chapter from the book. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. This was a short questions, so that's why I have given you an extra question in the same folder. So please try that, and answer to that would be available by the end of the week.